Yes. We are back. It is the Castworthy Podcast. Good morning. Good Sunday morning. It is Sunday, October 10th. Pumpkin spice right around the corner. Uh, um, um, I am Big Steve, aka Last of a Dying Breed, on the Twitter machine, joined by the VP today. Um, No EJ at the moment. The Jets are playing in London, so there's a 9:30 game. So I'm sure he's over there with hopes and prayers for a win today over an Atlanta Falcons franchise that just looks like absolute shit.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Gosh. Tough, man. Tough. What's going on, man? What you been up to lately?
What up, man? Just been chilling, dealing with shit, but chilling most of the time.
Life.
Yeah, man.
Gotta do it. Gotta do it.
Yeah.
Um
And you know, before we get into the shenanigans, let me just say something real quick on a serious note. Like, I mean,
yeah, let's do it.
I know our audience isn't the biggest, but for those who listen, um, if you're you know having some tough times and dealing with shit in your head, and you need some help, the uh the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. Again, 1-800-273-8255 for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, or helpline. They're open 24 hours a day, every day of the week. If you need help, reach out. Don't suffer in silence, or suffer alone.
No doubt. No doubt. That is a yeah, absolutely serious thing. With the way everything's been lately. Yeah. Resources are there, man.
Yeah, man. Like, we've been dealing with some shit in our family with um well, I don't want to say, but yeah, but
People. Yeah.
a friend from work dealing with some shit with her own family. So, I was like, damn, man. It's just kind of, you don't know what to say to people, but just try to stay up, try to stay strong or whatever. But if somebody out there themselves are dealing with something, what I mean, there's help available.
Yes, indeed, man. Yes, indeed. And check on people, man.
Yeah.
Check on your kids. You never know what your kids are going through at school. Got to ask those questions. They're not always going to just come out and tell. We live in a world where it's frowned upon to tell on people and to snitch, especially in our little wing of society. So, high school age kids and kids in general, man, it's just stuff that you got to check on and make sure they're safe before it gets too late.
Right.
And of course, not just children, man, not just children. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that. You know, and you don't realize how relevant that is. The job that I work for, there was a phone call in, and a gentleman spoke to one of the leaders at our job and told him that the night before, popped some pills, didn't think he wanted to be here anymore. He was in the hospital and things like that. So yeah, it's serious, man. It's serious. We are dealing with just weird times, man.
Yeah.
Unconventional times. Things that people have never dealt with, things that shit even therapists and shit don't have never dealt with. They don't even know how to fucking lead people into into and out of the bad
Yeah.
times into good times or big good thoughts. So um yeah, that's I'm glad you kind of brought that up. Definitely something for people to keep close.
Yeah. For sure.
Yep, man. So just a quick transition to kind of get off of the seriousness. If you could give me that phone number again, because I watched the Many Saints of Newark last night, and as I was watching, oh man, I was dozing, and sheesh, if I had a choice of watching the rest of it, uh, what did they do? What did they
Man,
do?
the only thing that I can think of is when I watched it. I think I watched it the night it came, or the night after it came out. So I think that was last Saturday. That week I read that David Chase, the creator of Sopranos, um, that he signed a 5-year deal with HBO, and some people were thinking that the Many Saints of Newark is kind of like the beginning of a series, a prequel series, you know. And it may be, I don't know, but the movie itself, man, it was terrible. It was terrible. And as somebody who, as we discussed many times, have seen Sopranos, the entire series. I think I've watched the entire series like 4 or 5 times.
Mhm.
Um, it just seems like the entire movie was just, putting to film these stories that Tony told Milfy
Right.
in counseling, or that the fellows were talking about amongst themselves and things like that. And it just, at the end of the day, it answers a question about what happened to Dickie Moltisanti, which I don't think many fans were out there clamoring for, like, yo, what happened to this guy? you know
Right. Tony loved
so
him. Where'd he go?
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
it was terrible, man.
I think you're right. I think it is gonna. There will be some type of series. We've been waiting on this series, and the problem that I have with it is that it could be too late.
Hmm.
For it, we are avid Sopranos fans, but I mean, there's been so many other good series since, right? See, Sopranos was so good at the time; it was almost a game changer in what we were used to as TV. And I kind of think like the weekly sit down in front of the TV, I gotta watch this show, is kind of what made that show so relevant to people and kind of started a trend of where that is now. Um, I think it could be too late. I agree with you, man. I don't think people were really asking what happened to Dickie Moltisanti. I know I wasn't. That was the last thing
Yeah.
I was worried about. And to your point, I mean, there was so many scenes that we saw flashbacks of in the show that they decided to put into the movie. Like, I didn't need to see that reacted. I guess, maybe if you're rebuilding the fan base or trying to build the fan base for people that may have never watched the show, so I guess you got to put some context. But even like the beehive shit, like, in the hair, like,
Right.
the shooting of the person at the fair, like, we saw all of that as,
Hmm.
as Sopranos fans. And the only thing that I can say is that might be it, because they're trying to play to both sides. But I think they could have written it differently to where you didn't have to force that stuff in there.
Right. And the thing that I didn't like the most about it was the Silvio character, right? Because um in the show they basically, in season, I want to say it was season 5, the season with Ralph and Jackie Jr.
Hmm.
And Ralph tells Jackie Jr. a story about like how Tony and all of them became made guys when they robbed Feach,
The
Feach
poker game, right?
yeah, they robbed the Feach's poker game. It was him, Tony, Silvio, and Jackie's dad, Jackie Jr.'s father.
Hmm.
And they robbed the game. The right people got their money back, and then Tony and them were on their way to being made guys or whatever. In in the show, or in the movie, I mean, the Silvio character is an adult, and working for Dickie. But in the series, they make it seem like Silvio and Tony like came up together, were like, kids together, basically. Ralph, Tony, Jackie, and Silvio, and then Paulie
Right.
was like the old head. And then
Yeah.
the movie just totally retcons that, you know. And to your point about being a game changer, Sopranos definitely was a game changer, because that was, I don't know if it was the first series, but it was the first series, at least if it wasn't first at all, it was the first series that became like very popular, that kind of popularized the anti-hero, you know, where the good guy is not the main character of the show, you know. And it started this genre of shows where people root for the bad guy, you know. Yeah, I didn't like this movie at all, man. There was nothing about it I liked.
Yeah, I think they could have done a lot better, man. They absolutely could have done a lot better. There was there was other pieces there that I thought there were some pieces that were good, but there was some other stuff that I wish they had done more of. Like, I get it was the Dicky Moltisanti show, right? But they told us all throughout the series that Tony Soprano loved this guy, and like, this was his idol and all of that, but we really didn't get much interaction between the two of them. You
Right.
know, all we saw his life, but we didn't get to see why Tony Soprano liked him. And even still, like, towards the end, it almost looked like he should have hated him the way he
Exactly.
was treating them. So I was
Exactly.
I was confused, and we just didn't get a lot of Tony as a high school kid. They made such a
Hmm.
big deal about his son playing that character, James Gandolfini, that is. Um, and I just didn't. I felt like we should have gotten more of him because he's the star. Like, as a Sopranos fan, that's the guy that you would want to see more of. Sure, it's a story about Dickie, but I need to see some of Tony. I would need to see what that life was like.
Right. Exactly, man. It's just, yeah, I didn't get that at all. Unless they're doing a prequel series, that's the only thing that makes sense to me. And then maybe, some of those things which again we saw in the series that they put in this movie, where they talk about, they gave him that test and he had a high IQ and he has leadership skills and that kind of thing like that. So unless they were using all that kind of stuff to set up the prequel series, and I'm assuming, maybe if the series starts with him graduating high school and then trying to get into the life or whatever,
Mhm.
other than that, the movie makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah, and I would think, like, if I'm watching it and I'm writing off of that, I think you have to write into you have to write the prequel, but into current events for the series, that is, right? I mean,
Hmm.
never in the series did anybody make mention, unless you recall, of Junior being the one that did the deed,
No, they didn't.
right?
They allude to, they allude to whatever happened to Dickie, like not really being known, because since you recently just watched the series, but there's an episode where Tony sends Chris to kill this cop, and he tells him
Yeah,
that's the guy who
that was
killed
your
your
dad.
dad.
Hmm.
And Chris is like, yeah, when he was bringing me some dinner trays or something like that. And
Right.
like, even when I saw that scene, as soon as I saw him unloading the car, I was like, he's about to die. And my wife was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I see the dinner trays. Like,
Yeah.
but but anyway, when Chris goes to kill that cop, the cop is like, you got the wrong guy, da 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 da. And then Chris thinks about it for a minute and he's like, it doesn't matter. He wants you dead, and
Right.
then he kills the guy. And so, I felt like in the series that there was an open question about it. But again, I don't think that any fans of the show were like, man, I really need to know what happened to Dickie Moltisanti,
Yeah.
because he's not that big of a character in the show. I mean, if anything, if something I would like to see a prequel on is like, remember that episode when Tony and Paulie going to run to Miami because they were like digging out some place where Tony's first body was buried at,
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
yeah,
they
yeah.
went on the run. I wouldn't mind seeing a story around that. Like this Dickie Multisanti shit, they could have kept that.
Yeah, they didn't. It didn't do him any. It didn't do him any favors with that. Um, Lots of questions still left there. And the other piece that I didn't like about it was they started out with like Christopher telling, being it from his point of view, and you only heard from him like twice. You heard him
Mm-hmm.
there, then you heard him once through the middle, and then at the end he's like, and that's Tony. Like, motherfucker, what? I don't know. I was confused at that. I was
Yeah,
extremely confused at that.
yeah. It was
Yeah.
just it just was, and then like you said, all the callbacks with the beehive and like I don't even know if you caught it when they were at dinner and Junior said the thing about him not being a have the makings of a varsity athlete, and I was just like, oh my
Oh
god,
yeah, yeah.
like are we seriously bringing this shit up?
At the dinner table, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm
I
just
was
like
watching. I was like, oh my god.
yeah, they just I don't know. I didn't feel it at all, man. They fucked up with that. Like, and it's one of those things. It kind of reminds me of like with Coming to America too. You know, some
Yeah,
like it's hard to follow up the classics, man. And sometimes I get it why they do it. I mean, it's a money grab, but sometimes you gotta just leave well enough alone.
yeah. Was there anything that you liked about it?
Um, not really, not really.
Oh man, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. I don't even think they did a good job with the legacy look, like the vintage look. I
Hmm.
didn't think they did such a great job there. I do think they did a good job incorporating, the overwhelming racism without making it super obvious,
Yeah,
because it made me think of like the old lady when Tony was going to sell that building, and they were talking about how it, black people were never allowed on that block or something like that in the series or some shit like that. And
hmm,
you know um and so then you saw, the little race war and stuff like that. But I thought they could have done better also with just saying who was who. Like, who was the dude that died in the car? Just a regular collection guy for Dickie Moltisanti, or
yeah,
like, did he have any relevance? And if not, then what the fuck are we watching that for? Like, why am I
right.
seeing it? The writing, they could have done so much better, man.
Hmm. And then even with that whole thing, like with the whole, the battle between Dickie and I think his name was Harold, the black guy,
Hmm.
like, is building up to this whole thing, and then nothing comes of it. Dickie gets killed by Junior, and this guy, moves into some brownstone or whatever, and the movie just ends.
Right,
So it was
right.
like, what was the fucking point of building all of that up? And unless again, if we're kicking off some kind of series, and then like that, him and when Tony's coming up, like that's kind of like the main rivalry in the first season or something like that, where they're thinking, because since nobody knows Junior did it, they're probably thinking, oh, he was beefing with these black dudes, so they're probably the ones who killed him.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I say maybe maybe they have to write into the present to kind of show maybe Tony having some animosity towards Junior because
Hmm.
of it. Maybe somehow it comes out and he knew, and just kind of covered it up for some reason, which is why he gave Christopher the gun and told him it was. I don't know. I don't know. They're gonna have to get creative. I hope there's more, and this was just let's get people caught up, for people who are unfamiliar with the series and stuff like that. That's really the only way that they can explain this.
Yeah.
But it was tough, man. It was tough. While we're here, we may as well just let's stay on this. What else you been watching? Anything?
I watched Nine Perfect Strangers, which was the it was that series on Hulu with Nicole Kidman. It's
Oh,
a
okay.
mini series, but it's 9 episodes. So even though most mini series are like 5 or 6, this
6,
one's
yeah.
9. But each episode is like 45 minutes or so. The longest one is the finale, which is like 58 minutes or something like that.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's basically a movie about or a series about this group of people who go to this, like, one of those self-help places called Tranquillum, and Nicole Kidman is like the person who runs it. and she puts these people together and try to help them with whatever it is they're dealing with. And what I didn't expect was like the series deals a lot with like mental health and things like that, and I kind
Yeah.
of wasn't expecting that. Kind of took me off guard a little bit, but overall, it's a good series. You got a good cast. You got Nicole Kidman. You have I can't think of her fucking name now. The Melissa McCarthy. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
you
like
got
her.
her, and like there, you got the I don't know her name, but like the black chick, she's like always a friend in like these like black movies. Um, she played remember that movie Little that Issa Rae made?
Yes, yes, yes.
She was like the adult lady, the one who was like the boss. Her or she was in remember Scream, not Scream, Scary Movie, the parody, the
Oh
loud black
yeah,
chick in the
yeah,
movie
yeah,
theater. Her,
yeah, yeah.
she's in it, and like her character is like fucking crazy, and she plays that shit well. Her character is like, I mean, it's like really fucked up in the head. But yeah, so I checked that out. Um, I also, Many Saints of Newark. And I started Squid Games last night. I've only watched the first episode. I started at like 9:30, and I was ready for episode 2, and I was like, I know how I am. Like, me, I'll binge some shit. I was like, I'm gonna be up to like 4 in the morning watching this shit. So I
Right.
just stopped right there. But
It's
I mean, it wasn't what I was expecting. Like, it's that first
different.
episode was like shit. I see
Right.
what people are talking about, man. But that's basically it for me. What about you?
Came out of nowhere too. By the way, that's Regina Hall, that actress.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, Regina Hall. Just for for shits and giggles, because she needs her flowers. Like, she's gotten her flowers, but she needs her flowers because she's another one of those that you see her in movies and she's similar, and you just like, oh, that's the one from, and nobody
Mm-hmm.
really knows her name. There's so many black actors and actresses like that. It's
Facts.
tough, man. But yeah, Squid Game, man. So Squid Game is interesting. I'm glad you didn't get even further into it, because that first episode, how slow it was and how long it took for you to get something, and then when you finally got it, from there on, it's pretty damn good. Like, episode 2 starts off a little bit slow, um, and but after you get past that first piece of slowness, to where, I mean, obviously you're gonna know that they're gonna end up back in the game, somehow, once they get back around to the game, however they get there, now it starts to move really, really fast, and it
Mm.
gets really good, and there's substance and stuff like that, and you start to see people build relationships, and you start to attach yourself to characters, and stuff like that. So that's where, I think it takes, to your point, you always say you give something 3 episodes, right? Or
Yeah.
4 episodes. If you give this one 3, you'll be fine. You'll be caught the fuck
Oh
up.
no,
It'll be
I'm gonna watch this. Like the thing for me is like I saw, you guys talked about it last week
Mhm.
on the pod. So already got a recommendation from you guys. There are people who I follow like on Twitter, like for politics and shit, who've been talking about it. On one of the political shows I watched, they did a whole segment on it. Like, they were dressed in the sweatsuits and things like that. I didn't watch the
Yeah,
segment because I didn't want it to spoil anything. But I was like, damn, I think I gotta check this shit out. So
yeah.
and so
They
I
said
went ahead and watched first episode.
that it's on track to be the most, or the highest streamed show in Netflix history.
Hmm.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I
That's
saw that.
crazy.
And what's I saw the one thing that I did see about it was Dr. Jason Johnson. He comes on, talks a lot about politics, stuff like that. He's a political scientist, but he was talking about it from the standpoint of what does this say about the world that the most streamed show ever is a show about people who live in abject poverty, and who have to resort to doing the craziest shit to try to get money to get out of debt. And it kind of made me think about the conversations that we've had around like student loan forgiveness.
Mhm.
And he brought up another series that I can't recall, but he said it was something like in the same vein of a person like doing some outrageous shit for money, and yeah, just and you think about now with all the job openings and people saying they can't find workers, or some people would argue folks don't want to come back to the workforce because they're not being paid enough. I don't want to risk my life to get COVID to make $7 an hour.
Right.
um and so he was kind of like coming at the movie or the other series like from that point of view, and it kind of it kind of made me think that me, I don't know. I doubt like something like this could be our future. You know what I mean? But it's crazy to think that you know this kind of shit is I don't want to say out there, but like we're looking at it as entertainment. And who knows? Like some people say, all fiction is based on reality. So
Yep. And
you know,
and that's what I was gonna get at, man. It is so real in the fact that you have people, and I don't want to spoil too much for you, so I don't want to get into too much, but as you watch it, you're gonna see some consistencies to the way our society is right now.
mhm,
And it makes you wonder, like, people are really fucked up,
mhm,
and you know as you get further into, like, I'm on episode 8 now, I believe 7 or 8. um it's gonna really make there's gonna come a point where you're watching and you're gonna be like, this could probably be something that's truly really happening, like like so, but yeah, keep watching it. it
yeah,
gets it gets really good. And there's a few little down areas, but for the most part, they don't last long.
mm,
And it is a good show. It's a good show so far. I haven't
yeah,
finished yet. I think I'm very close to the end, but I don't want to miss anything, so I'm just watching it when I'm awake.
yeah. And
And
you can tell that this show was made in I think it takes place in Korea. Um,
mhm,
because when the very first thing that I noticed, like once it goes to the main character, when they start off in the he's like sitting on the floor eating or whatever, you can
yeah.
see that it's what do they call it? Like when they like they dub it, or like there's a person speaking English, you see his lips moving and he's not speaking English, he's speaking
Oh, yeah,
Korean.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
kind of how they used to have like the old kung fu movies back in the
Hmm.
80s. Um,
Sap, is that what they call it? Sap, or is that only
I have no
Spanish?
clue. It was like, I will
Okay.
destroy you.
Yeah. Right.
but but yeah, so you could see that. So I wondered, like, it must have had a great reaction overseas for them to then put it in English and bring it over here. And that was kind of concerning for me because I usually don't like films like that. But so far so good, man. But it's fucking wow.
I hate when the mouth doesn't match up to the word, the audio.
Hmm.
It always throws me off and I stop watching. But I think because it is Korean, or some type of Asian. I think it is Korean that they're speaking. Um, it's not as, like when you watch the Spanish and Italian ones, like,
Hmm.
they're all over the place and the mouths really don't match up. Here they do okay with it. They match up a little bit. Um, but the voiceovers are terrible. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just weird watching like, they're full American. You could hear, like, John Smith, and you're watching this Asian person and you're like, this is not his voice. That's the only piece to it. But
Right.
and it gets crazier as you watch, but it's all right. Sometimes you see them, like, when the person's supposed to be yelling, and then you hear the voiceover person, like, yelling it, like, ah, and you're like, what the fuck? That sounds terrible. They find a way, man. Jeez. But
Yeah.
it's, yeah, it's good, man. It's good. That's what I've been watching mostly right now. And then I watched Many Saints of Newark. um I think that's really, I mean, for the most part, it's been a pretty slow week for me on the TV front.
Yeah,
A
same.
lot of sports has been on. MLB has been on. I've been actually, we've talked about it, just trying to get into some more, intellectual shit more so than just TV and just the computer for stuff. So I've been listening to some audiobooks and stuff like that. Damn sure ain't reading, like, but I'll listen.
Yeah,
So that's kind of where I've been. So I haven't had a chance to watch too much of that, just sports and Squid Games, and, Many Saints. But there, I want to watch Made. I don't know if you saw that. I'm sure you saw that because you're it's called Made. I
oh
don't
okay,
even.
yeah. I seen it on I saw it on that, like on the trending stuff, but I haven't watched it yet.
Mhm. I don't know what it is. That one and Midnight Mass are the two that I want to watch. Midnight Mass was given to me by somebody that I work with. They said that it's interesting and it's good. And
Mm.
then Made, I just happened to be scrolling down the timeline, and one of those big it's a limited series also. It's only 10 episodes. I was watching I came across this what the fuck am I talking about? One of those big media sites that post, like, it might have been Shade Room or something like that, and they're like, "What are you watching on Netflix right now?" And there was so many people that were like, made," and I'm like, okay. So once it gets like that, it's like Squid Games, right? Squid Games, it's time to watch. So I
Yeah.
do want to watch that, and I'm gonna check that out for sure. I did start Schitt's Creek, which is old. um it's funny. Schitt's Creek is funny. That's the one with the father from American Pie
Hmm.
with the bushy eyebrows, and
Yeah.
then I guess his son is in it, and they were like wealthy. I'm only a few episodes in. I think I'm 6 episodes in. They were wealthy, and like something happens where they're losing their fortune, and they end up in this small town, and it's just funny. It's funny.
Gotcha.
It's not something that you got to pay attention to or think or follow or anything. It's just something, if you just want to kind of just laugh and get a little, less serious tip for a minute, it's something good to watch. It's kind of funny.
Gotcha. I
So
also checked out last week was the finale of or not the season finale, not the series finale of Billions. Checked
mm,
that finally came back a couple of weeks ago because they had to stop because of the pandemic. So they did, like, for season 5 they had like 6 or maybe 7 episodes, I want to say, and then it went away for like 6 months or so, and then it came back and they finished off the season. So yeah, that was interesting. It was unexpected the way that happened. I didn't know that um Damian Lewis, the guy who plays Axe, or who was Brody in Homeland,
mhm.
he left the series. So they didn't kill off his character, but they basically like sent him away to where he's like on the run, basically. The prosecutor Chuck Paul Giamatti finally gets him, and he's supposed to be coming in to surrender, and he ends up getting away, and he goes to like Switzerland or some shit like that, where there's no extradition for the thing that he's charged with. So that's kind of how they got rid of his character, and then they put in a new bad guy. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next season, since like the show is like so wrapped around Axe and Chuck's rivalry, and then
Mhm.
now he's gone. So we'll see where it goes next season. But and again, this is one of those shows where I read something that said that they were thinking that this show would go like 3 or 4 seasons, and now we just wrapped up season 5. And so
Yeah.
you kind of can see when shows got to start stretching it out when they go beyond what it is they plan to do.
Yeah, trying to find writing.
Yeah,
Trying to find writing. All right, so it wasn't the series finale, it was just the season finale. Okay.
yeah, just season 5 finale.
I do
And it
want
was
to get
weird
back.
too. I'm sorry to cut you. It was weird too, like when they came back, because they had to stop filming because of COVID. And then when they came back, I guess like during that downtime, Paul Giamatti must have like went on some fucking diet or something, because like the
He looks
show,
crazy.
right? Like it stops on episode like 6, and then when it picks back up on episode 7, it's like, what the fuck is that? Because like he's lost all this weight, shaved off his beard, like he looks
Mhm.
totally fucking different. So,
It's like when what's his face came back and he was in the Sopranos, that season where he came back and he was thinner and he's like,
oh
ah,
yeah,
I'm doing,
I know you're talking about Vito.
yeah, Vito. He's like, I'm doing what is intermittent fasting or something like that. I can eat anytime. I can eat anything I want. As long as between these hours. Oh man, I gotta get back to Billions. What gets me right, and it's the same thing I guess with what's that other one that you guys all love that I say is shit?
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad. Like when I watch a whole season of it and then I let it sit for a minute, it's always hard for me to get back because I don't want to rewatch what I've already watched and waste time of my life. But I also am not going to remember everything that took place in what I've already watched. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I am with like Ray Donovan, Billions, and Breaking Bad. Like I want to pick all three of those back up and just kind of give them another chance and finish them out. I really liked Billions. It's I stopped.
Yeah.
But I know with Billions, I'm gonna have to go back to the beginning because I don't fully remember all of it. I remember some of it. Ray Donovan's so old, and I was two seasons in on that. So I'm just gonna be all messed up and lost. So
Yeah.
that's where I am right now. But I do need to get back to Billions. Oh, and I got to catch up on Succession.
Yeah, that's getting ready to start next week.
Yeah, I
Or the
started
weekend.
that. I think it is this weekend. I
Okay.
saw the
Great.
saw the commercial last night.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I only watched like the first 2 or 3 episodes, so it'd be easy for me to get back to that. I
Yeah.
didn't, not much to have forgotten. Um, but yeah, man. So back to I want to get back to some TV stuff, and obviously fall is coming and or here, right? It's October, so all the
Mm-hmm.
good TV starts to come out and shit. So we'll see some new shows and shit. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but let's get into some other stuff. At this point, I think it's a good time to talk about Mr. Joe, your guy. They're saying all I see all over the place is he's down to 38%. What's that?
His approval rating.
Approval rating has dropped significantly. What's that all about?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on where you're looking at for the approval rating, but on average, it's like in the mid 40s. But
Okay.
that's still low.
Right.
Especially because like usually when a new president comes in, they get what they call a honeymoon period, and like the first couple of months they'll be like over 50%, and then the
Right.
partisanship kicks in, and then the other side hates them. Their side, most of them love him. Some of them would think that he's not doing enough. So you kind of get that mixture, and then you're like in the mid to high 40s, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Joe was over 50% for a while, and then it seems like he started dropping around the time that we missed the deadline that he set for vaccinations. Like he set the goal of 100 million vaccinations, hit that, then he upped it to 200, hit that. And then he was saying, we would have like 70% of the country vaccinated by the time we got to 4th of July, and we ended up missing it by I think it was like 67% or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um and then a lot of it comes in framing. It's something I talk about all the time with a friend of mine from work. The media will say, Biden missed this goal, this goal of a 70% vaccination rate for the entire country by 4th of July, and then not also report that you have Republicans and Fox News and stuff who are just totally anti-vax, pushing conspiracy theories and horse medication to people and shit like that, and it just gets reported like, oh, he missed this deadline, like everything is just equal, and they just fucked up and missed it. You know what I mean? So you
Right.
got that going on, but then you also have issues with them passing this infrastructure bill, as well as we were coming close to hitting the debt ceiling. They extended it out to December. You still got the student loan shit happening. That it doesn't get as much traction like when you watch TV news, but like if you follow political shit online, like there's a lot of people who were talking about this shit. Like, yo, what the fuck are we doing? Like, when is he gonna do the student loan thing? They had the thing a couple of weeks ago that they did for disabled borrowers, which is something
Right.
like 300,000 people who are going to get their loans forgiven. This week they did another one where they have a program for people with federal student loans. If you get a job where you're like serving the country, like you're a teacher, you work for the Peace Corps, you work in government or the military, and different things like that. If you do it for 10 years and you've been making all your payments on time, you can get your student loans forgiven. Well, apparently there's like some kind of flaw in this program where the system is like fucked up, and people reach the 10 years and they're like, oh, actually, you haven't been making a payment, so yeah, you're fucked. So
Right. And that's the flaw. All the
yeah,
payments on time
right,
is the biggest flaw right there.
right. And 60 Minutes did a story on it where they had this lady who she's like a lawyer in the military, and she was like, she wanted to make sure she was going to be good for this program, so she had her payments on auto pay, and she was coming up on her 10 years, so she started getting ready to do the paperwork to file to get the forgiveness. And she was like, when she gets with the case officer or whoever, like the person at the financial aid folks who were going to be processing this thing, they were like, oh, it looks like you didn't make all your payments on time. She's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And there's basically some kind of flaw in the auto pay system to where it was deducting 1 penny less than her payment. So her payment's $300. It takes out $299.99.
Come on.
And, and so because the payment is always short 1 penny, over the last 10 years, it looks like she's only made 12 payments total because the payments are always short. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so she didn't qualify for the program, but secretary Cordona, the education secretary, basically they're like putting in something in place to kind of to not only fix that, but to also allow these people who have been fucked by the system basically because of stupid shit like that, they're going to be able to apply once they get these fixes in place. But just with that news, when it came out, you had people like Warren, Bernie, the usual suspects saying, yo, when the fuck are we going to just forgive the student loans, yada, yada, yada. And I continue to believe that they're holding it off to use it politically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Waiting for
Timing.
2022. But,
Yeah.
I don't know that. It's just something I believe. But that's basically what's been going on. But we still need them to pass this infrastructure bill. We still need them to, get on voting rights and all other shit, man. It's just a lot of slow going. And it really seems like Joe Manchin, the Democratic senator from West Virginia, and Kristen Sinema, Democratic senator from Arizona, it seems like they're hell bent on making sure that Democrats lose the majority in the Congress and that Joe Biden is not reelected in 2024.
Mhm.
Because other than that, the shit that they're doing makes absolutely no sense to me at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me something about that article that I posted that I read backwards in regards to Trump. Because I was
So
thinking it's time for Joe to put this motherfucker in jail. And I read it. I read it backwards as he was like almost like pardoning him. When I was
yeah.
reading, I was driving, and then I was like, this motherfucker's a pussy.
So what that was talking about, what you're referring to is the select committee in the House that's investigating the insurrection, January 6th. They issued subpoenas to get records. And so there's this law that's called the National Records Act or something like that,
Mhm.
where presidential records, like once the administration leaves the White House, all the records are sent to the National Archives. And so like we're talking about like emails and calendars and schedules and even like handwritten notes where like somebody was taking notes on something in the meeting, like all of that shit is sent to the National Archives and is stored, is put away. Um so the committee investigating January 6th sent a subpoena to the National Archives saying we want records relating to stuff around the insurrection.
Right.
Now, because these are documents but that belong to the White House, the administration can use what's called executive privilege, which basically works. It's something that's not in the Constitution, but the courts have said that the Constitution grants it, right? And it's
Mhm.
funny, like on a side note, that this is something that's not in the Constitution, and the courts have said, no, this is a privilege that exists. But when they did Roe v. Wade in the 70s and said, yeah, there's not this this right to privacy in the Constitution that they use as the foundation of abortion rights. But that's not the Constitution, so you can't give that right and be like, wait a minute, executive privilege is not the Constitution either. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, but anyway, so basically, the way executive privilege works is that the president gets to get advice from his advisors and not have to worry about everything that those people say to him or her is being, requested from Congress or whatever. It allows them to get free and candid advice from their
Mm-hmm.
advisors, right? Okay, so with that backstory, so the January 6th committee sent a subpoena to the National Archives saying we want all these records. When they sent that list, basically they sent it to the National Archives, they sent it to the White House, and they sent it to Trump because these were Trump's records. So they're sent it to the White House because the executive privilege rests with the current occupant of the presidency, which is Joe Biden. So they're sending it to him to say, these are the things that we want, and are you going to exert executive privilege? Biden announces that he's not exerting executive privilege on Trump's behalf, right? So the National Archives can go ahead and give the records.
Right.
And now at this point, Trump is basically saying that he's exerting executive privilege on his own, which he doesn't have it, but he's going to ask the courts to basically block it from going over. So that's basically what happened there, is that Biden was saying that he's not going to exert executive privilege on Trump's behalf and that the records can go over. They don't have the records yet because, again, there is, even though former presidents don't have like a clear cut executive privilege the way that the current president does, they still can go to court to get some of their things protected. So it's not over yet, but the first hurdle was whether or not Biden was going to protect these records from Trump. And most presidents they hate giving up executive privilege because current presidents will become former presidents, right? And
Right.
then they can have the same thing happen to them. Well, how come Biden didn't do the student loan forgiveness? Hey, National Archives, send us all the records on everything that was about student loan forgiveness,
Mm.
and maybe Biden doesn't want those notes out when he was like, man, fuck those people. You know what I'm saying?
Fuck them niggas.
So that's why they usually are really hesitant to waive executive privilege. But in this case, the White House was like, this is not a normal, like January 6th is not some normal like policy debate or something where we were talking about, how much aid should we send tornado victims or student loan forgiveness, or even something as serious as war. We're talking about people trying
Right.
to overthrow the government. Like, we're not going to protect those records.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know. At least there's some cooperation there.
Yeah.
I hope we get more on the student loan front. Obviously, we talk about that all the time, and I hope it is a political thing. But it sucks to hear about like that woman, and if she doesn't make it to 60 minutes, and if she doesn't raise holy hell, does she just end up screwed and other people like her? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the fucked up piece to it, man. And I think we've just gotten to a point as a society where we just don't think outside the box. We don't think about, does this shit really make sense? Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck are we doing? You're gonna tell this poor lady, whomever it might be, dog, that one penny that you've been paying. She's like, damn, I done not paid my car payment sometimes to make sure I did this shit. You know what I mean? Or
Right.
whatever, right? Like it's just crazy, man. It's crazy.
And some people would argue, well, even though she set it up on automatic payment, she should be monitoring it to make sure the payment was correct, right? She would argue from the other end, this is why I set it up on automatic payment, so I didn't have to think about this shit.
Right.
Like, I wanted to just set it and forget it, and then 10 years later file my paperwork since I'm in the military and be done with it. And then other people would argue still, I mean, if you had just worked on paying off that debt, you probably could have got it done before 10 years instead of paying the minimum and then waiting 10 years to be forgiven, or what, you know what I mean? So there are multiple ways that you can come at this argument. But at the end of the day, this is a program that exists that says if you make the payments after 10 years, if you've done this type of work, you're giving back to the country, then, you can have your student loan forgiven. this person is doing what they're supposed to do, and the system is fucking them over, and that's not right.
Gotcha. Um, on the mandate front, we're starting to see a lot of these calling people's bluff, and their poker faces are coming down pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you did not have the ace in hole like you said. Like, I've been seeing a lot of that pop up, and I'm trying to think, there was a story last night on the news about one of them that I read. I'll try to think about it, but I know you've posted a few, and we've seen, in New York there was that big one with the health workers and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, where it was similarly where the companies are kind of putting their foot down, like, listen, this is our deadline, what are we doing? And all them people that are like, take my job, I don't care.
Right.
No, not so much, dog. Not so much.
Because on the first, the rent's due.
Right. Exactly. The landlord not asking, is it because you didn't want to get vaccinated? Oh, let me give you an extra couple of months to figure shit out. Like, that's
Right.
not how life works, bro.
And like we talked about this offline, like that they needed to start doing is calling these people's bluff, because I mean the vast I mean, you look at people who are vaccinated, right? The vast majority of us got vaccinated just because we didn't want to get sick. And then you have
Right.
some people who maybe I truly believe that there were some people who were, vaccine hesitant, they were skeptical, because of the speed or whatever their reason, right? And some of those people eventually got vaccinated. And then you got these people out there who are just dug in, and they're like, I'm not gonna do it. And the only way they're gonna do it is if you make them. And now, you have the government that's talking about doing some mandates, but I feel like it's a lot stronger coming from these jobs, because these are the people who pay you, and you had some companies talking about, oh, you get to come back to the office, you got to be vaccinated, da, 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 da. And then you had United Airlines, who came out, in my opinion, with one of the strongest mandates, basically saying all of our employees need to be vaccinated. And if they're not vaccinated by this date, they're going to be fired. And you had people who called their bluff. And of their 60-something thousand employees, when it came time to the deadline, I think the number I read was like 593 weren't vaccinated. And then deadline comes, and for those people, United went ahead and sent them the email, don't show up tomorrow, and we're in the process of doing your termination package, for being fired, or whatever. I guess because they have unions, so they're going to give them some kind of, I don't know, they were going to get a severance or something like that, so hey, don't show up, and we'll hit you up in about 2 weeks to let you know what the deal is. And then you have some people like, oh shit, these motherfuckers were serious. And that number went from 593 not vaccinated to like 375. And then, and then like another week passed, and I guess people thought, yeah, they're not going to fire these people. And they sent a letter saying, hey, this is what you're going to get. And that number went from 375 to like 220, and then you got that 200 people who are like, I don't give a fuck, whatever. And what's crazy is, the way the media does things, those 200 have been getting more news than the 60-some thousand who are vaccinated.
Right.
And it's like, we got to stop focusing on, these people who aren't doing the right things, and giving them all the play. And I get it with news, if it bleeds, it leads, and, all that kind of shit like that. But, like, why are we focusing on, 200 people not getting vaccinated? Like they had that, the Massachusetts State Troopers Union put out a thing saying like how dozens of state troopers in Massachusetts are quitting because of the vaccine mandate. And then I saw somebody who a media person who posted, the Massachusetts State Trooper has like 2,500 cops. Dozens could be, 20 to 50. So 20 to 50 of 2,500. What are we talking about here? You know what I'm saying? So, like it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, you got some people who will, go all the way, but for the most part, the rent is due. When you flip the switch, you need these lights to come on.
Right.
You want to drink a cold beverage. You know what I mean? You want to go. You want to watch TV. You need to have cable. You got to have internet. You need a fucking phone. Motherfuckers are gonna get vaccinated.
Yeah, and I mean, aside from that, the jobs that are out there, they're going to have the same type of mandates, or similar mandates. Or if you've been with a company 10, 12, 15 years, whatever that looks like, going into a company at the bottom ground is probably not in your best interest financially.
Hmm.
You're leaving somewhere, so that's a thing too. I fully agree with it. And there's a question about why mandate versus being tested daily. And that's an option that the government has given to these employers. And that's what people don't realize when they're talking about the government's forcing us. Well, it's not the government that's forcing people. It's the employers that are making the decision, the business minded decision to say, I have 7,000, 10,000, 15, 25,000 employees. Let's say 5,000 of them decided they didn't want to get vaccinated because they know that they can get tested daily. Now, me as an employer, I have to foot the bill for these 5,000 people to get tested 5 days a week, what at whatever that cost looks like. It's already, there's already an increase in cost to these employers that are providing the medical insurance, because
Hmm.
I'm sure United Healthcare and the likes are not just coming out and saying, let's keep everything the same, even though you all have had, this many people that were in the hospital or were tested daily or tested 3, 4, 5, 6 times a month because they thought they came in contact with somebody, right? And so, that's I think that's kind of, as a company, from a business standpoint, yeah, you can get tested or you can leave, because we can absolutely find people, that want to do it, right?
And that was United's exact point. The point that you made about the cost when they first put out their mandate was they said that they're paying anywhere between $40,000 to $60,000 on average per positive employee in medical expense, like in the cost in their insurance program. And they're coming off a year of people not traveling, they're not making money, and then having to foot extra money for people who are getting sick, and on purpose, basically, like make not getting vaccinated is a choice, you know um and yeah, there are breakthrough cases. People still, get sick or not sick, but people still catch COVID with the vaccine. But the vast majority of those people are asymptomatic. They're not in hospitals. They're not dying and things like that. And so that was their exact point, was what you brought up, was about the medical costs.
Right, right. And so the next point is, are they getting their civil rights taken? But they're not. I mean, from a company standpoint, you're an employee. You have a choice, right? And the one conversation I had with somebody recently who made that same type of argument to me. They're an extreme weed head, right? But they're not gonna not go get drug tested if it means that they can get the job. It does. They're not gonna not go get drug tested if it means that they can keep their job. And if they don't, there's consequences, right?
Mhm.
And it's the same to me. It's the same type of thing. You're mad at this specific thing. Listen, as an employee, it's your choice. You do have a choice. You can say absolutely not, no thank you, I don't plan on doing this. Utilize any benefit time that you might have, vacation, etc. Look for a new job, and then go on your way, right? Or you can use the time to do some real research versus just what you see on the internet and just following what other people say is it's not safe, and see how many people have actually gotten vaccinated successfully with no casualties versus the small amount that have, and just be responsible. And I
Mhm.
think that's how, from a business standpoint, I can assure you that the people that are the decision makers and the stakeholders are not sitting there saying, we've got to make these people get vaccinated. That's not their first choice, right? They don't want to have to deal with this because, one, they're in the news, right? That's negative press, because Fox News and these people are giving them negative press. And it's from that standpoint, and from B, you lose employees. It's more important to backfill than it is to keep those long-standing employees that you've trained up for 10 years, that might be a professional at what they're doing, and have somebody that comes in, and there may be attrition because there's so many jobs out there that are available and other places that they can go. So from a company standpoint, it's not a full benefit to them, but you also have to think about keeping your employees safe as well, and that has to be, a priority.
Hmm. And on the civil rights front, I mean, if you think about it, there are, depending on the state that you live in, 10 to 20 vaccinations that you have to take before you can send your kid to a public school. whether it's a grade school or college, right? When you join the military, week one in the military, you get like 17 vaccinations. All that shit you get when you're a kid, they don't know that you got it already, so they give it to you all again, right? So it's this vaccination that people seem to have concerns with, which I don't fully understand, right? But then let's take it a step further, right? Because where do your civil rights end and mine begin? Because you say I have the right to not be vaccinated. I feel like I have the right to not die from COVID, right? And so you can say, well, yeah, you can go get vaccinated. I don't have to, and I've done that. But what about children who can't be vaccinated? You're a father of a kid who's not eligible to be vaccinated at this point, right? And
Right.
so, you know, you want to still be able to exist and live in this world, and you can't do that fully because there are people out there who are not vaccinated, who won't get vaccinated because they have their rights. What about your kid's rights? He has the right to not get sick and die, just like somebody who say I have the right to not be vaccinated. So I think we have to ask that question about, where those one's civil rights end and another's begins. Because in my mind, I look at it like the mandate piece of it is basically doing something that's in the public interest. It's in the public good, right? It's not like they're mandating everybody has to get a nose piercing. Okay. Like we're talking about, something that can save people's lives. There were people who in the 50s and 60s or whenever they started doing it who said they shouldn't put fluoride in the water. And the medical community and the government got together and said, while there are some people who probably is against doing this fluoride in the water thing, overall it's in the public's interest. It's probably best that we do this. And they start putting fluoride in the water, and it's just one of those things that we have now. And nobody, I'm pretty sure people who probably complain about it now, but for the most part, people don't notice it and they keep it pushing. You know what I mean? So I would ask that question, like, where does my civil rights begin and yours end?
But if they didn't start putting fluoride in the water, our teeth would look like the people in England. So that's thank you, government.
Right.
Look at Adele, her shit fucked up, and she's a millionaire. Listen, I don't care about people that decide to make their choice. They choose not to get vaccinated. The biggest problem that I have with that is those people that are also anti-vax are also the people who are anti-mask, right? And they're like, oh, well, I'm breathing in toxins and it's not fair to me to have to wear a mask and you don't have to wear a mask. You got to make your choice. There's choice A or choice B. You can't have A and B. You can't be like, oh, I'm not getting vaccinated and I'm not going to wear a mask, and I should be able to go into this restaurant even though this owner says, hey, you need to wear a mask or you need to be vaccinated to come in, one or the other, right? Mm-hmm. And they're just doing that, right? And you talked about it's the safety of other individuals. There's people that have been confined to their homes that are, that have underlying issues that they really can't. I mean, now that they have the boosters, but if we think prior, there were people that couldn't get vaccinated and also couldn't go out into the streets because they don't know who they're coming in contact with, right? Mm-hmm. And when we talk about, rights and things like that, it's really, it's not the government that's mandating it. They're making rules and laws towards these employers, and then the employers are making their informed decision, right? So I wouldn't say that the government's taking any civil rights from it. But I do think, that there's on both sides of it, there's people that are irrational. I don't think it should change people's friendships, break relationships and things of that matter. But, some people are extremely strong about it.
Yeah, and I mean, and we have to also be honest. Like, we talk about people who say they're doing research. Like, what are they researching? Because Facebook isn't research. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I was worried about the vaccine last year before I ever took it, my research was, oh, they're having Fauci on this town hall and see it on CNN where Sanjay Gupta, who's a fucking a brain surgeon, is going to be asking him questions. And this other network has Dr. Kizmikia, however you say her name, the black lady who made the Moderna vaccine, You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so that's the kind of shit I'm watching for research. I'm not looking at Facebook and fucking YouTube videos and people pushing horse medicine and shit like that. So at the end of the day, these people really aren't doing they just don't want to take it. And at the end of the day, we're gonna have to say, well, this is for the public good. It's in the public's interest that people be vaccinated. Are there going to be exceptions? Sure, there are exceptions to measles and mumps. We see outbreaks of measles every year and things like that. But at the end of the day, I feel like we as a people are really regressing. You know, because you think about. I've said this before. We started doing polio vaccinations. You don't hear about anybody catching polio these days. That polio vaccination and people not getting polio, like those things are correlated. Like there's a cause and effect. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and and it seems like people are like, well, if I want to get polio, I should be able to. And then it's like, well, that's just a contagious disease. And what happens to people who are born and they're immunocompromised and things like that. We have to think about that kind of shit and weigh it against people's individual rights to say, do your individual rights trump the entire public's well-being?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. It's people are selfish, man. People are selfish. And to your point, man, listen, I don't judge people that do their research in certain areas, right? I mean, but fact check it. Just check it. Like if you see, and I've learned that the hard way because I've posted some shit that was unreal, because I saw it on the internet and I'm like, boom. And I go back and I start looking and I'm like, no, this is nowhere to be found. This is just this one person's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the big piece. That's what I tell people. I'm like, listen, it's okay to not agree with it. It's okay to not get vaccinated. It's okay, whatever, but don't spread stuff without checking to see if what you're spreading is accurate, right? And
Right.
and go out and do just a little bit of legwork when you see these videos of, not just when it comes to vaccines, but when you talk about the government, you talk about the president, and they give you this little blurb and it just cuts off in the middle of a sentence. They're only giving you what they want you to see or what they want you to hear. They don't want you to
Mm-hmm.
get the context of what's being said or discussed in those situations. So, I think that's what's missing. People with this misinformation, the sheep, and that's what's leading to more people being like, I'm not getting it because this meme I saw said XYZ. Well, the meme's not right.
Right.
The meme
And
is absolutely not right.
and Steve, like the thing, like you see, like I saw a news story. This guy, I think his name is like Ben Collins. He works for NBC, and he basically is on the internet, like in his whole like beat as a reporter is to cover these conspiracy theories.
Mhm.
And he talks about the shit that goes down on Facebook and YouTube, with COVID misinformation. And again, let me preface what I'm getting ready to say by saying that what I'm getting ready to say is complete nonsense. Don't try this shit at home, okay? But you have people who are on Facebook telling people if you get COVID, all you have to do is nebulize peroxide. You know what that is, right? The nebulizer.
Yeah, yeah. A little,
You-
yeah.
yeah, for people with asthma, nebulize peroxide, and then of course it doesn't work, and they'll tell people, oh, if it doesn't work, it might not be strong enough. Maybe you didn't do the mixture right. So you have to coat your mouth with iodine and then nebulize the peroxide. People are doing this shit and ending up in the fucking poison center at the hospital, right? Then when somebody has a fucking car accident, when somebody is having excruciating pain from their cancer, or they have some
Heart
kind of
attack,
setback after they had a
stroke.
heart surgery or heart attack, or stroke, like you said, on and on and on. These people can't be treated because the hospital is filled with people who won't get vaccinated. Like you said, they won't wear masks. And then the ones who are interested in being vaccinated are treating themselves with made up bullshit that they saw online instead of getting legitimate medicine that was created by doctors for the thing that you're worried about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's irresponsible, man. It's irresponsible and it's selfish. And, like you said, there are people out there that have valid concerns. I work with someone who, they had a child. The child had severe side effects to a vaccine that they took as a baby, that are lasting at this point. And so now they question every vaccine, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
get that. That's somebody like that. I get it. You have a reason behind it. You know what I mean? It's, you're traumatized. So I agree with that. But it's the people that are just like, nope, because it's political. It's all
Yeah,
political, right? It is all political. And people don't realize how from one side to the other they sound when they're like, oh yeah, yeah, no, I hated Trump, I hated Trump, I hated Trump. And then now, you know not what they're saying about Biden, but all the shit that they're saying about everything else, about the vaccines and all that other shit that comes into play, that makes you sound like you're in line with these same supporters that supported Trump,
right. And and
lock and
and
step.
I didn't like Trump. I make no secret of that, right? And part of my concerns about the vaccine was Trump's involvement in the process. Him continuously bringing in people from the FDA and him going on his Twitter account and pushing them about the speed of the approval process. And so that shit made me uncomfortable that the president is out. Like, there was a story that came out the week that they approved the Pfizer vaccine where it said that Mark Meadows, who was Trump's chief of staff, basically told the FDA director if the vaccine wasn't approved by Friday, he was going to be fired. And lo and behold, Friday night, the vaccine got approved. And I'm like, yo, listen, I get how the FDA process works. They send it to an advisory committee who are people who don't work for the FDA. They're doctors who are experts in their field, who are outside of the government, and they recommended approval, and the FDA took that advice and approved it. I get all of that, but this political involvement, that shit gives me pause. You know what I mean? And I was a skeptic at first, but I continue to look at information where I'm looking at experts who are talking about this shit, who are telling me that it's safe. Not only am I looking at what experts are saying about it, I'm using my own eyes and I'm seeing, man, 30 million people taking this shit. I don't see people growing third eyes. People aren't dropping down dead. The Walking Dead zombie apocalypse haven't started. Guess the shit's safe. You know what I mean? So, you gotta like you gotta look at those kinds of things, and it's not just what experts saying. What are your eyes telling you? You know what I mean? Like you worldwide, we see of these the prime time vaccines, whether it's Johnson Johnson, Pfizer, Moderna, and a couple of others. We've had like 2 billion plus people on the planet who've taken these vaccines. Everything seems to be okay.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, man, we gotta get past this shit. This shit is fucking up the economy. It's fucking up people's mental health, kind of like where we started the show at today. This isolation and all this shit is not good for us. Like I was talking to a friend of mine, her kid, he was home last year, and then this year he went to school, and she was saying like he was acting out in school or whatever, and I was like, well, I was like, I think part of it is COVID. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, he was home last year. You didn't send him to like daycare because you didn't want him to get sick. So I was like, kids learn from each other. He goes to a place like daycare. He sees what's acceptable, what's not. He sees where the line is. And so he knows not to cross it, even though he wasn't told not to cross it. He sees other kids not crossing it, and that behavior sets in. I'm like, now he's in school for the first time. He don't know where the boundaries are. He don't know where the lines are. Plus, he's wearing a mask. All the other kids are wearing masks. When the teacher says something, he can't see how other kids are responding to it. You know what I
Right.
mean? So when the teacher says something, he don't know if people got that look on their face like, man, fuck what she talking about. Or if people are like, oh shit, I better not do that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all of that shit plays a factor, in how these kids are are behaving and things like that. And we got to get past this shit, man. It's been fucking 2 years. We gotta get past this shit.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good point. The master point. I never really thought about that, because Ash is in school and he's speech delayed and stuff. So I never really thought about, he's gotten in there and he's made great strides and he's doing a lot better, right? But he'd probably be doing so much better if he could see their mouths.
Yeah.
Right? Now he's living off of what he can hear, but his teachers wear masks all day, every day. So he can't see their lips move. So he can't see the B for B, you know what I mean? Or whatever that looks like, whatever letter it is,
Right.
But he can hear it and he can mimic it, but he doesn't see their mouth. So yeah, I never really thought about that. That puts two and two a little bit together there for me. But yeah, man, I just think, informed decisions is the biggest piece, man. And then we got holidays coming and shit. And, like we started off, people are already, depressed and dealing with shit. And, holiday season isn't going to make it any better because not everyone's going to want to get together. Some people are actually going to follow, whatever guidelines are set in certain areas. We don't really have those here, but like in California, New York and stuff like that, they've already started questioning, what are going to be the limits, for holiday time and shit like that. Right. And, listen, you vaccinated or I'm not going to see you. Like that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at, or you got to get a test. Like I'm gonna start treating people like the airline. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. I'm not going to spend more than 15 minutes around you, because I don't know what your status is. That's just the way life goes, man. And you deal with whatever consequences come with it. If you're going to deal with that in life with your job, you're going to deal with it in real life. And it's the way that goes, man.
Yeah.
Man, Zach Wilson is terrible. EJ should be. I'm surprised he hasn't popped in here because he has no reason to watch the rest of this damn Jets game. They are terrible. Good Lord.
Man.
It's 20-3. It's halftime right now. Atlanta is winning. Kyle Pitts is having an amazing day, for a rookie. We should have known that was coming with no Ridley. 6 for 65, I believe, and a touchdown so far. So about 18 points fantasy. But yeah, Zach Wilson's missing wide open throws, throwing him out of bounds while guys are cutting towards the sideline. Like he's just trash, man. He's terrible.
Yeah. I mean,
he's garbage.
We've seen in the last 10 years or so kind of the evolution of quarterbacking in the NFL, where now guys are drafted and expected to start right away, and I feel like you can do that, but it has to be for certain guys, right? It maybe, coaches need to sit back and say, okay, I got this guy. We obviously drafted this person with a first round pick, top 5 pick at that. I think what was it, number 2 overall, or number 3 or whatever it was. But we draft this person to be the guy, but we don't got to feed him to the wolves on day one. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there's nothing wrong with bringing in a rookie, or a vet, and letting this guy sit behind and learn something. You know what I mean? Tua has been stinking up the show or whatever, but I have to think that him sitting behind somebody with as much experience as Fitzpatrick, he learned something. You know what I mean? Instead of you just throwing the guy out there to the wolves and then, it's like sink or swim, and I get it that other positions don't do that, right? But I mean, for your quarterback, like this is the guy you expect to lead your team for 15 years or so, and why, get him out there and fuck up his confidence and let him make all these mistakes and things like that when you can let him chill for a minute and learn something. Phillip Rivers, even though he never won a Super Bowl, nothing like that, but I have to think, sitting behind Drew Brees for those 2 seasons, I have to think that did something for him. You know what I mean?
Aaron Rodgers even said it, and he's a cocky, arrogant piece of shit. But he said sitting behind Brett Favre, helped him out, and even Tyrod Taylor, man, like Tyrod Taylor has never been that guy, but he's always been serviceable. He's always been fairly decent, and he got to sit behind Flacco. So some decision making, different types of games because he runs a little bit more, but absolutely, man. And New England is the biggest one right now. They had a good quarterback. They had a veteran in Cam Newton who they couldn't be in any worse shape than they were in right now. They're gonna, now you're gonna see them say, "Oh, well, they made the right decision because he went toe to toe with Tom Brady."
Right.
Yeah, I think Tom Brady was in cruise control because if he had put his fucking foot, put the pedal to the metal, I really think that he could have done a lot better on offense that game. And you got to add to the fact that he spent 20 years with the coach on the other sideline. So they got to know a little bit about this guy, including the
Right.
offensive coordinator who made him successful. So they have to know a little bit about what to look for, what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are, right? So, but, again, going back to it, Zach Wilson looks like shit. Justin Fields looked like shit, but he looked good last week.
Mm-hmm.
It granted be that it was against Detroit. And with the Jets too, another piece is they have a rookie coach as well, right? In Saleh. So you have a rookie coach in Saleh who's a defensive minded guy, and a rookie quarterback. Now, don't get me wrong, I know your coordinators make a difference, but I can't help but think that if there was a more offensive minded head coach, that they might be able to look and see things, see mistakes and stuff like that. I think quarterbacks make good coaches, and if they had I don't know who it could be, but just someone that might have been more offensive minded than that, because he's set up for failure, man. And they, I don't know, he looks bad. His receivers are running good routes, but he just looks like shit. Well, Jets
Yeah.
are about to run it back. Oh, he got pushed out of bounds. Okay.
Yeah.
Surprise.
I mean, yeah, I think they should have let that guy just let him sit for a year, bring in somebody who, got some experience, let him sit, learn how to look off the safety and get more familiar with his receiver. And then, and then now with COVID, it's not even like, in normal times, if you were going to start as a rookie, you could be out there in May, at the local high school running routes with your guys, you know what I mean? And you couldn't do none of that off season stuff because of the pandemic. And so now you get out there and it's just like, like I said earlier, sink or swim, you know,
Yeah.
and that's tough for these guys. And it's, you coming out of college. I mean, the players are bigger, stronger, faster, smarter, and it's not like when you were playing at, whatever school he went to. I can't remember, but how these big programs, you play like 3 big schools the whole season. And then, other games you're playing against, Central New Hampshire Tech. You know what I mean?
Right.
You beating up on these fucking, you know, high school equivalent teams and shit. You know what I mean? Fucking 80 something to 3 score or whatever. Like that shit ain't gonna happen in the NFL like that. So let these
Yeah.
guys sit for a little bit and marinate and learn some shit.
He went to BYU.
Meanwhile, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's a kid, man. He's only 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that there's other young kids out there doing this, but I mean, we've seen it. We've seen it with Fields. We've seen it with Trey Lance. We've seen it with him. We've seen it with the kid in New
Tua.
England. None of these Tua. We've seen shit. Even homeboy that was supposed to be next coming down in Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, Trevor Lawrence, yeah.
Like these guys are struggling. They're
Mm-hmm.
struggling, and sure, I'm sure part of it is to COVID. Minimal um time to kind of get better, versus and to build chemistry. But like you said, man, they're getting held to the fire immediately, and
Yeah.
these guys that they're used to, they're usually able to get away from these quarterbacks, or I'm sorry, from these linebackers and these D linemen, right, easily, and extend the play or make run or whatever that looks like, right, make a play with their legs. But these guys are faster, right? And you're only getting
Mm-hmm.
the best of the best. Like you're now in the NFL, to your point. You're not playing against B level talent that's at, or C or D or E level talent that are at these other schools. You're playing only the best of the best that made it to the league, right? The
Right.
fastest, the biggest, the strongest, the smartest. That's what you're playing against. So, that adjustment period absolutely has to be more than just a few games. So, not saying that these guys are going to suck forever. But yeah, I mean, just watching Zach Wilson, he looks bad, man. He's off. His count is off. Like his receivers are at the sideline, and he's just coming out of his bootleg. Like he just doesn't seem ready, man. He doesn't seem
Yeah.
ready. He needs to sit for a little bit.
And part of it too, I think it's like this mentality of like we got to win this year, and like I don't know why they don't see it, because as a fan, right? I can look at my team and say, last year we won 10 games, right? So it's like this year, like we need to make the playoffs. I don't think this year needed to be like Super Bowl or bust. You know what I mean? But we need to we won 10 games last year. We need to be a playoff team this year and a strong compete for the division title at that, but playoffs for sure. You know what I mean? And then if that happens next year, you're like, okay, next year we should be like this should be a Super Bowl year for us,
Right.
And I feel like some teams don't go into it thinking like that. Like if you're Jacksonville, like, okay, let's see what this guy got. And we're gonna try to win, 9 games or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you can't be like, okay, we got this rookie quarterback. I mean, if we don't win a Super Bowl, this season was a fucking waste. It's like,
right.
You won 3 games last year. What the fuck are you talking about? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, they brought in Urban Meyer. They got to win, right? He was out getting crafty, wasn't he? Urban Meyer getting lap dances.
Like you're Cleveland and you're like, oh, we went 0-16. We got Baker Mayfield. If we don't win Super Bowl, I don't know what the fuck we're doing. And it's like, yo, you didn't win any games last year. What the fuck are you talking about? Like this shit is a process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It ain't like the NFL is not like the NBA where you can insert a guy and like the entire team changes. Fucking LeBron leaves Cleveland. They go from winning 60 games to winning 20. He comes back to Cleveland. They go from winning 20 games to winning 50. The NFL don't work like that. You know what I'm saying? You can't insert one guy and then the entire franchise just immediately changes or whatever. Like that's bullshit.
Yep. The Jets just took the ball out of Wilson's hands and ran the ball a bunch, and they just scored. Look at that. Go figure. And their kicker missed the extra point. Oh, man. EJ, your team is terrible.
That was a theme on a Thursday night game, them fucking kickers.
All year it's been that way, man. We kind of let it off. The Cowboys let it off early, man, with that shit. Lost to fucking Tampa Bay. We'd be undefeated right now. If it wasn't for that. Potentially, possibly, allegedly. All right, let's get into some picks, and then next week we'll get back into some basketball, man, because watching this preseason, we'll get some more games and stuff, get to see how these guys are clicking, but it doesn't look like, I mean, for the Lakers, man, early on,
before we do picks, especially coming off the COVID conversation and now sports, what do you think about this Kyrie situation, man?
Well, he got cleared to practice recently. The court just cleared him to practice to be able, or the league cleared him to practice. So that's one thing. He's still not going to be able to play, but I mean, he's getting paid a hell of a lot of money, man. He's getting, I mean, fuck, that's your star, and to our point as a team, and what makes it unfair, right, is they're in a state with certain guidelines. And I don't know if these, I probably have to do a little more research. I don't know if the guidelines are the same based on just the NBA or if it's also based on state. Like if he was to come to the Heat, would he be able to play his home games because Florida doesn't have those rules? Or is this an NBA thing, right? If it's an NBA thing,
it's a government thing.
Right. So if it's an NBA thing, it's one thing, but being a government thing for that area, it's unfair because for this team, let's say they're like, man, we need to cut our losses because we got so much cap lined up in this guy. They can cut him, but then he can get picked up somewhere else and get hurt, and they get hurt by him, right? Or he'd be a great player, and they're losing their choices. So I mean, if I'm them, right, maybe you move your home games, right? Maybe you talk to the league and say, hey, if you really want to stick by this guy as a player and stick by his choice, you talk to the league and say, hey, listen, can we move our home games to XYZ, somewhere not too far from there, West Virginia or some shit, right? Not sure that works, but you get my point, right?
Yeah, I get you.
At least so that we can get this guy to play because, we saw in the playoffs last year, he went down and then Brooklyn loses, right? KD can do but so much. James Harden,
Mm-hmm.
although he was hurt, right, you still had the two of them on the floor at the same time at one point. And teams have gotten stronger this year. I
Yeah.
mean, the Heat have gotten stronger in the East. The Lakers are fucking ridiculous. Like, it makes no sense. That team is so fucking stupid. It doesn't make sense. But yeah, I mean, so maybe if I'm the organization, maybe I would look at that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're right, man. And also you got to look at it like it's not just the home games, right? Because when Brooklyn has to travel to go play the Warriors, they have vaccine mandates out in the Bay Area in
Mm,
California. You know what I
yep.
mean? They go play the Lakers. I don't know what LA, the city of LA has, but California state government has some mandates in place as well. I don't know if it's touching NBA, you know what I mean? But you're gonna start bumping up against these things in different places you go to. In Portland, I don't really follow politics in Portland that much, but Portland is in Oregon. Oregon's one of the most liberal states in the country. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so I'm pretty sure that they have mandates in place. Boston have mandates in place, so it's not just missing those home games. He could end up missing road games
Some
too.
road games. Yep.
And you talk about 82 game season, 41 home games, and he could miss 10 to 15 road games.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, gosh, man, it's so tough. Like, I wonder, even beyond him, right? Do you think there's like, what do you think the conversation between like KD and them with him is? Like, you think they're fully supportive of him, or like you think they're like, come on, dog?
If you had asked me that question a couple of weeks ago, I would have said they're probably like, "Come on, dog, what the fuck are you doing?" But seeing all this news that's come out, especially in the NBA, I think they're probably like, let him do what he do. That's on him. I can't force him to do X, Y, and Z. It's not my decision, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I really don't think anybody's on him. So it's
Yeah.
tough, man. It's really tough. Like we said earlier, people got their rights and that kind of thing like that. But then you look at a guy, it's hard to root for a guy like Kyrie. Like when I watched what's your boy from the Magic, when he had the press conference, he was talking about how he had COVID before, so he has the antibodies, and you know, um, he gave like this whole like 2 minute answer to a question where he was talking about his reasoning for not getting vaccinated. And the things he was saying, they were sound, right? Some of them can be knocked back with people with evidence that shows that the antibodies you get from the vaccine are actually stronger than natural immunity and those kind of things like that. But the answer he gave was sound. And then you look at a guy like Kyrie, who a couple years ago was talking about the earth is flat and all this other crazy shit. And you have to wonder, like, is Kyrie a Facebook guy? Right? Is he doing research on Facebook, or is he
Right.
doing research like my man from the Magic? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, you're right. You're right, man. And Kyrie doesn't do himself any favors. I mean, I've always supported him in the stuff like where he's disappeared and they're like, oh, he's being a cancer to his team by disappearing and stuff. And he's saying he has reasons for it and shit like that, mental health, etc. Supportive, fully supportive to that. This is different, man. This is different. There's a lot of stuff out there to tell you otherwise. There's research. There's
mhm,
there's there's results to this. And not only that, the result, I mean, you're a fucking athlete. Like, you're in tip top shape. I
mhm,
doubt that there's a chance that this vaccine is going to take you out. You know what I
mhm,
mean? Which, granted, that's probably his thought pattern on the virus, right? But when you're talking about a rule, right? A rule of your employer, which is the NBA, follow it or don't. And I
yeah.
wonder. So I wonder if the NBA, and I know he's not getting paid, but I wonder if the NBA is going to let Brooklyn make a decision, about whether or not what that contract looks like. Can they break
Well,
it?
it'll be tough. It'll be tough because I mean they got to do it based on what the collective bargaining agreement says,
Mhm.
and that's kind of what's happening with I don't know if you saw the thing I posted in the chat about the actress who plays Shuri from Black Panther. where she's been out there like spewing some anti-vax shit. Disney has
Really?
a policy. Yeah. Disney has a policy in place for people getting vaccinated, but that's like going forward. She's under contract before this policy existed, so they can't force her to get vaccinated based on the story I read, you know. So you know,
They can
so
write her
same
ass
thing with
out though.
they damn sure could. But same thing with the NBA here. They have this collective bargaining agreement that says how they can handle, disputes. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, we're talking about, millions of dollars per player, billions of dollars, overall for the season. So I'm pretty sure it goes all the way down to medical stuff. I mean, you look at what happened with like a guy like Chris Bosh, where he
Right.
had his heart issue and couldn't play. He still ended up being paid out or whatever. So, I'm pretty sure they have some kind of rule in place, but he's probably at the end of the day still going to get his money.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. See if he ends up, caving and taking the vaccine. And if he does, what do we get? Some reasoning behind it, like hey, I wanted to be here for my group, or what that looks like. And if that happens, right, you can't say, yeah, I mean, you can't talk negative about the guy when it comes to that standpoint, right? He's definitely there for the team, but
Yeah.
it'll be good to see, man. It'll be good to see. And it's also gonna be good to see how many of the guys don't show up, or that, in general, just in the league, that can't play or won't play because of stuff like that. Because I know everyone, he's a big name, he's in the spotlight because he's a superstar, but I guarantee you there's others, that we just aren't hearing about,
For sure.
I mean, shit, we hadn't heard about Michael Porter Jr. He gets this big ass contract, and then he pops out like, just sign my shit, but I ain't getting back. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, dude, you could have told us this shit before we gave you fucking the biggest contract, the second biggest contract in the league right now. Like, come on, man. I tell you. All right. What's that?
I just got an alert. Devontae Parker's out.
Oh, okay.
Back to the drawing board for fantasy.
Yeah. Next year it is.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't impact me. I don't have him anywhere. I have any shares in him. All right, let's see. Last week was a rough week for you guys. You guys, even with the Thursday night game, EJ went 7 for 16. You went 9 for 16, and I went 12 for 16.
Damn, it's like 2 or 3 weeks in a row you don't win double digits when we were single.
Yeah, you guys getting, but it's not paying out. I'll tell you one thing: it's not paying out on my bookie sites. So it's like the 12 that I chose right ain't the 12 that, you know what I mean. It's so bad, man.
But in there you got to factor the spread though. For here it's just picks.
Yeah, I know. All right, let's look and see what we got. We started the early game was the 9:30 game. I think we both took Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
And EJ didn't make a pick, but we're giving him the Jets because I'm sure he would have taken the Jets. And if they come back, he'll get the win. All right, we've got the Lions 0-4 going into Minnesota.
You said at Minnesota?
At Minnesota, it was 1-3.
I'll take Minnesota.
I'm gonna go Minnesota as well. Not sure if Dalvin Cook is playing, but we'll see. He's questionable. So, all right. The Saints 2-2 going into Washington. Washington football team 2-2. Gibson is questionable right now, but they expect him to play.
I'll take the Saints.
Saints. Man, I really think the Saints. That's what my knee jerk tells me. But I also think Washington's got a great shot at it. I'm gonna go Washington. I'm gonna give them the benefit. I don't know that that's gonna work out, but I'm gonna go Washington. I have a feeling that Saints defense
you got enough cushion. You can take a risk.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Be a little different here. We got the Patriots 1-3 going into Houston, who's also 1-3. Yeah.
Oh man. Like after I watched Houston's week 1, and I was like, damn. But then they just kind of regressed. Give me the Patriots.
I got to go New England as well, just because the Houston quarterback that's out there. All right, the Dolphins 1-3. Is Tua back? Are you guys
No,
still rolling with? Okay,
still rolling
so
with
Jacoby
Jacoby.
Brissett. Yep.
No
All
Devontae
right.
Parker.
No
And
Devontae
the
Parker. Oh my
and I don't know if
goodness.
the Dolphins know this, but running is part of football.
This week, and don't listen. Even if they figured it out, this is not the week to start. They got damn that Buccaneers defense. Oh man, dude, they held the Patriots to -1 rushing yard. -1 rushing yard
Yeah,
last. Did I say Patriots defense? Patriots run
I
game to
mean
-1.
the Patriots run game. You mean?
Yeah. All right. So you got the Dolphins 1-3. Jacoby Brissett, no Devontae Parker going into the Buccaneers, coming off of a little struggle against the New England Patriots last week.
It pains me to do it, but I'm gonna take the Bucks.
No Gronk. I already
Hope I'm
sold those
wrong.
tickets.
Hope I'm wrong, but take the
Yeah,
Bucks.
I'm going Bucks. Green Bay Packers 3-1 going into surprisingly the Bengals, who are also 3-1. Joe Burrow, man, coming off of that injury, has looked pretty damn good.
Yeah,
Jamar
yeah, it
Chase,
looked good.
everyone gave him a hard time coming out of that last week of preseason because he was like, it's different in the big league, you know.
Mhm.
But that guy's caught a touchdown in every game so far. So,
I mean,
and
I
two
like the
last
way
week.
Burrow. I like the way he looks. Cincinnati's been doing good, but I'm gonna go with AA Ron here.
Aaron Rodgers, that's a tough one to go against, man. I like Cincinnati, but I'm gonna go Green Bay. But I think it's gonna be a closer game than people think.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's gonna be a close game than people think. The Broncos are 3-1, but they are now rolling with Locke. But they're going into a Steelers team who has a quarterback who cannot move. Like Ben
Yeah.
Roethlisberger is stationary. They are one. They're 1-3.
You know
So it's
what's
in
crazy about
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh? They have an old quarterback, just like the Patriots did and the Bucks have now with Brady. And on the Pats as well as with the Bucks, it's like they had this theory, and it goes something like this: our quarterback is old as shit and can't run. We should probably protect this guy.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, who would have thought that? They probably got like
Might
a
make
team of
some
guys
sense.
who just sit around thinking shit up, and it was like, we
Right.
should protect this guy.
Yeah, Ben's
Goodness
been getting
gracious,
hit, man. He's been getting hit, and against his Broncos def. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, that's a tough
Ben
one,
gonna
man.
Ben gonna need to lose like 60 pounds when he got to NFL because he ain't gonna be able to walk like Kenny Smith. That's how he go.
Yeah,
That's
as
how he
much
gonna
as
look.
he's getting hit, oh my gosh. Oh, Mike Davis just broke one off. All right, so we got the Broncos going into Pittsburgh. What you think on that one?
I'm gonna take the Broncos.
Broncos.
Yeah, I don't
I
believe in
have
them,
to.
but I gotta make a comeback.
Yeah, I got to go Pittsburgh only because Drew Lock is starting. If they had Bridgewater starting, I would have probably went Broncos. All right, shitty ass Eagles. Hey Eric, happy anniversary. uh, you got the shitty Eagles 1-3 going into Carolina 3-1.
Mm.
Man, are the Jets kicking themselves right now, huh?
Eagles going into Carolina. Give me Carolina.
I'm with you. The Titans 2-2. No Julio. I don't know if AJ Brown's playing. Actually, we need to look that up. And then they're going into the Jags who are 0-4. Divisional game.
I'm gonna go Titans, but stop me if you've heard Julio's out before.
I know. Oh my gosh. I told myself I wouldn't do this to myself again, and I still picked him in a league this year. I was like, nope, I'm not touching
always
him.
calling it out, like how he's always fucking hurt too.
And he always fell to me. So, all right, they're saying AJ Brown practiced on Thursday. He's looking like a go. So yeah, I'm with you. I gotta go Tennessee on this one. I think he's gonna get peppered with targets, man. AJ Brown, that is. All right, Tennessee for both of us. All right, this is a good one, man. 3-1. Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield, and the crew going into Los Angeles. They'll be playing the Chargers today, who are also 3-1.
Going into LA. I'm gonna roll with the Browns.
Browns, man, this is a hard one for me to pick, dude. The Browns got a great defense. Justin Herbert just looks so good, though. No homo. Damn, man, this is a tough one. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with the Chargers just for parity. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Chargers, but I think it can go either way for sure. Bears 2-2, going into Las Vegas to play the Raiders, who are 3-1, coming off of a loss.
I'm gonna go with the Raiders here.
I'm with you on that. The Bears have announced that Justin Fields is the starter for the remainder of the year, barring injury already. That's interesting.
And
He could
while
come
we
here.
do you think anything comes of this Gruden situation, or just a Stern talking to?
The racial remarks,
Right.
for those who are unaware, I don't know, man. I don't think they're gonna do anything to this guy. At a league stamp, I mean, shit. We've seen this. This show before. What was the guy's name in with the Eagles? They left it to the organization. Wide receiver.
Ridley.
Yeah.
No,
I forget his name. Not Ridley, but it was an R. But yes, him. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Riley Cooper. Riley Cooper.
There you
go. He was yeah, and there was video, and he like N-word. So yeah, I mean, I can't see the Raiders doing anything about it.
Yeah,
and it was so long
especially
ago.
with Gruden.
Yeah, and Gruden.
And then you think about like how they pursued him. Like when they first were trying to bring him on as coach, they were talking about giving him a big contract and a 10% ownership stake in the team. And NFL was like, no, you can't have the coach can't be an owner.
Right.
That's something you can do after, but not while he's coaching. So, and then they signed him for 10 years, so they're not going to get rid of him.
John Gruden, let's see. I'm looking for the true story here. Raiders and NFL condemned John Gruden for using racial trope. And I don't think he's dumb. I don't think he's a liar. Gruden to the Journal. I don't have racial bone in my body. Let's see. What did he say? Oh, that's what it was.
About his lips or something like that.
Yeah, this was tough. Oh shit, Dalvin Cook is out against so for Minnesota. Dalvin Cook is out. Get him out of your lineups. Oh, DeMaurice Smith has lips the size of Michelin tires. I mean, does it have to be a racist thing, or maybe he just got some big ass lips? But yeah. I see where it goes, man. I see where it goes. All right. Let's see. Where did we leave off?
Raiders.
I don't think anything happens to him though.
Yeah, same. Raiders was the last game we picked.
All right, we got the 49ers 2-2 divisional game going into Arizona, who's 4-0.
I'm gonna go Arizona here.
AZ
guys been cooking.
Yeah, that kid is so good, man. Yeah, I'm gonna go Arizona. Yeah, I'm gonna go Arizona with you. The Giants are 1-3. They are taking a trip down to Jerry's World to take on the Cowboys. Another divisional game, 3-1.
Boys.
Likewise, easy win. Dak is 7-0 against the Giants in his last 7 starts against them. So yeah, they've won the last 7 of 8 against the Giants, and the one that they lost was when Dak didn't start. So, yeah. The Bills 3-1. This is gonna be. I mean, this is tonight's game. I can't wait. It's gonna be a great game, high scoring. Bills going into Kansas City. Bills are 3-1. Chiefs are 2-2. This could be AFC Championship. It's the rematch from last year.
Yeah.
But it could be, something we see again this year potentially
And you said this game is at KC?
in KC.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a
Shit.
tough one, man.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Um, I'm gonna go KC here.
Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm gonna go KC.
I'm gonna go Buffalo just because I have Josh Allen as my quarterback. And I think Buffalo has to. They got to get over this hump, man. They have to.
Yeah,
If it was colder, they both play in the cold, so that doesn't
yeah, they
even.
both. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not
So
really a factor. With KC, I feel like the factor is the noise. 'Cause that crowd
yeah,
is fucking. Whew, them
but
and Seattle. Goodness gracious.
I know Kansas City though is so. I don't know. This year they just look slow. They
Yeah,
look
they have.
slow. Patrick Mahomes looks like he's kind of slumped. What's his name? Tight end. Travis Kelsey hasn't
Kelsey.
really been doing much.
With
Tyreek
that
had a
haircut, man.
Yeah, exactly. Tyreek had a breakout. You know what it is? He cut his beard off, man. All your powers in your beard. I gotta grow mine back. I gotta grow back. But Tyreek Hill, I guess he had a good game last week. First couple of weeks he looked like shit. Probably wasn't
Mhm.
beating any kids. Went home, beat his kids after game 3. Came
I
out
knew that
game
was
4,
coming. I knew that was coming.
2 touchdowns, man. Uh, um,
Oh man.
I'm never gonna let it go, man. I traded him. I traded him this week in another league. I don't like the guy, but
Yeah.
if he's the best option for me to pick, I'll pick him. But I traded him this week for Amari Cooper and
Is Cooper
Robinson.
playing? I read he was hurt. Or like he was
Cooper's got a
questionable.
hamstring. It's possible. I hope he plays.
Mm,
Gibson is healthy. He's playing for
okay.
Washington. So Antonio Gibson. All right, last game of the week before the Thursday night game. So Monday night game, another pretty good one. Could be potentially. The Colts versus the Ravens.
Mm.
Man, the Jets are so bad.
I'll take the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Baltimore with this one. They didn't fool anybody with that play. They are shitty. They are so bad. Zach Wilson is bad, man. Golly. This team is bad. All right, let's look at the Thursday night game real quick for week 6. Oh, Russell Wilson is out potentially 4 to 6 weeks with that middle finger dislocation.
I read this morning that the doctor who did the surgery said he's thinking that it'll be closer to the 4 than the 6, but still.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good thing for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sucks for me because I have Lockett in one spot, DK Metcalf in another spot, and in the place where I have DK, I also had Russ. So, oof.
Did you see it when it had the finger?
Yeah.
That shit was crazy.
It looked crazy. And then he got up and still played the next play, even though it was just a handoff.
Mm-hmm.
But still, dude, like imagine. Oh, yeah. All right, the Thursday night game. The Bucks going into Philly.
I'll take the Bucks.
Yeah. I don't think there's much to say about that. Should be another swampage, and they should get their asses whooped pretty badly. Yeah. All right, that takes us out of our picks and record time. We'll have over an hour today to go in and look at some fantasy stuff. That's a great thing.
I'm gonna need it.
Yeah, me too. All right,
so
let me.
I noticed. I don't know if you
that?
saw this in our fantasy league. 3 of the 4 teams that was in the semis last year. So the 2 teams that played the Super Bowl and then your team from the semis are all in last place, like are 8, 9, bottom. 10 in the league.
Yep.
Like,
it's all right. It's okay because the bye weeks are coming.
Yeah,
bye weeks are coming. We'll see some changes there.
Bye weeks and injuries, man. Everybody's fucking hurt.
And injuries, yes, man. I don't know where to go with this team, man. I got so many players. I just don't know who to play week to week.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, EJ gave his picks. Let's see. All right, I'll add those to ours. All right, let's we'll be right under the 2 hour mark. So let me hand this off to you to get us up out of here.
All right, everybody. We definitely appreciate you guys listening to us. And before I go any further, I'll just kind of recap the start of the show. If you feel like you need some help, need to talk to somebody, you're having thoughts, about hurting yourself or anything like that, you could reach out to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That telephone number is 800-273-8255. Again, it's 800-273-8255. They're open 24 hours a day, every day of the week. And if you feel like you need to just, talk to somebody, definitely reach out to those folks and try to get yourself some help. As always, we definitely appreciate you guys listening to the podcast. For those who listen live, we definitely appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday morning. For those of you who will listen when the episode is posted this week, we definitely appreciate you taking the time to listen to us too. If whatever platform you're listening on, hit the like button. That helps the algorithms. Tell a friend to tell a friend. You could also share the podcast, leave a comment, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. We can be found on all podcasting platforms at Castworthy. All of our social media at Castworthy. On Instagram, it's at Castworthy_podcast. When you're there, again, you can leave us a like, comment, share, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. And like I said earlier, tell a friend to tell a friend. Let's help grow the audience and get out to more people. But as always, we just appreciate you guys taking the time to rock with us, listen to us talk about things that are going on in the world. And we will see you guys next week for another episode of the Castworthy podcast. Hopefully we have a full crew. Until then, be safe. Like Steve said earlier, call somebody, just check in, and tell them you love them. And we'll see you on the next one. We love you. We out. Peace.